What if the life you celebrate on Earth looks completely different when you finally see what it was costing you inside? I never thought I would ask myself that question until the night my heart stopped. I'd spent years listening to rap, watching music videos, and thinking the lifestyle was freedom. The cars, the jewelry, the women, the money, and the respect all looked like proof that somebody had made it. Then I died for several minutes after collapsing in my apartment. I remember leaving my body and seeing the room from above before everything around me disappeared. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing in a place where there were no cameras and no crowds. Then I saw three people I recognized immediately. They were Nipsey Hussle, XXXTentacion, and Takeoff. I did not expect to see them together, and honestly, my first reaction was disbelief. I kept staring because every face was familiar, but none of them looked like the people I remembered from music videos. There were no designer clothes, no chains, and no flashing lights around them. They looked like men who had finally been stripped of every image they had built on Earth. Nipsey stood quietly while looking toward a massive darkness in the distance. XXXTentacion seemed restless, constantly looking over his shoulder as if he expected something to follow him. Takeoff barely spoke, and the expression on his face was the hardest part for me to look at. They did not look famous. They looked human. That was the first thing that made the place terrifying. Then the ground beneath us changed and suddenly became a massive city filled with lights and shadows. I saw concert stages, recording studios, luxury cars, expensive houses, and crowded clubs appearing all around us. At first, it looked like the world these artists had known while they were alive. Then I noticed something wrong. Every beautiful thing had a shadow attached to it. The cars were surrounded by people fighting over money. The clubs were filled with broken relationships and people crying when nobody was watching. The studios were packed with artists trying to outshine one another while secretly falling apart. The bigger the fame became, the darker the shadows around it looked. I realized I was being shown the lifestyle from the inside instead of from the audience. Nipsey was the first one who moved toward me. He pointed toward a stage where thousands of people were cheering for an artist. The artist smiled while performing, but behind the stage, I saw him collapse from exhaustion. Nobody in the crowd knew because the music kept playing. I watched people surrounding him, telling him to keep going because another show was coming. He looked successful from far away, but up close he looked trapped. Nipsey looked at me as if he wanted me to understand that image and reality are not always the same thing. I saw how fame can turn a person into a product that must keep performing even when the person inside is breaking. The audience sees the performance. They do not see the price. That realization made the whole place feel colder. Then I saw another scene that completely changed the way I think about money. A famous artist was sitting inside a mansion surrounded by everything he had ever wanted. There were expensive cars outside, stacks of cash on the table, and people everywhere trying to get his attention. Yet he was sitting alone in a dark room staring at his phone. He had everything around him, but nobody he trusted enough to speak honestly with. Every friendship seemed connected to money, influence, or access. Every conversation sounded like someone wanting something from him. I realized that wealth can create a strange kind of loneliness where nobody knows whether they love you or what you can provide. The mansion looked like paradise from the outside. Inside, it felt like a prison. Then XXXTentacion stepped closer, and I noticed how quiet he had become. He pointed toward a scene where a young artist was surrounded by anger, weapons, drugs, and people encouraging him to prove how dangerous he was. The young man looked fearless in front of everyone else, but when the crowd disappeared, he was visibly afraid. I saw how violence becomes part of an identity when people reward it. Every threat brings attention, every fight becomes another story, and eventually the person begins believing they have to remain dangerous to remain respected. That cycle looked completely different from the glamorous image I had seen in music videos. It looked exhausting. It looked like a man trapped inside a character he could no longer escape. The lifestyle was not giving him strength. It was slowly taking away his peace. Then the scene changed again, and I saw what addiction looked like without the glamour surrounding it. I saw pills, alcohol, smoke, and expensive parties, but there was nothing attractive about them anymore. I saw people using substances because they could not handle their thoughts when everything became quiet. I watched one person laugh with friends and then lock himself inside a bathroom because he was terrified of being alone with his own mind. Another kept taking more because the first amount no longer produced the feeling he wanted. Nobody around him understood how badly things had changed because they were too busy celebrating the lifestyle. I felt sick because I realized how easily entertainment can hide suffering. What begins as recreation can become dependence before anyone notices. The darkness around those scenes was heavier than any fire I had imagined. Takeoff finally looked at me and pointed toward a different scene. I saw a group of young men walking into a place where everyone wanted to prove who was the most respected. The conversation was full of pride, insults, weapons, and threats that seemed almost normal to them. Nobody believed anything serious would happen that night. They were laughing, showing off, and acting like they were untouchable. Then everything changed in a second. I saw panic, confusion, people running, and someone realizing that an ordinary night had become the last moment of their life. Takeoff did not say anything while I watched it. He simply looked at me with an expression that made me understand how quickly the lifestyle can turn deadly. One moment can erase all the plans a person had for tomorrow. Then I saw something even more disturbing than violence or addiction. I saw young fans copying everything they admired. They copied the clothes, the language, the anger, the relationships, and the reckless behavior. Some of them had never experienced the life they were imitating, but they wanted to look like they had. I saw parents crying because they could no longer recognize their children. I saw teenagers carrying themselves as if being feared was the same as being respected. I saw young men turning pain into aggression because they had learned that vulnerability made them look weak. The three rappers watched these scenes in silence. I realized that influence does not end when an artist leaves the stage. It continues through the people who copy the life they saw. That responsibility suddenly felt enormous. Then the entire environment became darker, and I saw the three rappers standing together again. There was no accusation in their faces, but there was a sadness I could feel without them speaking. I asked why so many people become trapped in lifestyles that destroy them. This time the answer came through what I was shown rather than through words. People chase pain away with pleasure, insecurity away with attention, and weakness away with power. For a while, those things seem to work. Then the person needs more money, more recognition, more substances, more excitement, and more control just to feel normal. Eventually, the thing that once made them feel powerful becomes the thing they cannot live without. That is how a lifestyle becomes a prison. The terrifying part is that the prison can look glamorous from the outside. I turned toward Nipsey and asked whether fame itself was the problem. He shook his head slowly. I understood that music, ambition, money, and success were not automatically evil. The problem was what a person became willing to sacrifice in order to keep them. I saw people sacrificing family, truth, health, peace, and even their own identity because they were terrified of becoming irrelevant. Some had reached the top and still felt like they were losing. Others had become famous, but could not enjoy anything without worrying about the next headline. I saw people measuring their worth by numbers on screens. Followers became validation. Money became security. Attention became identity. Once those things became necessary for self-worth, peace became almost impossible to maintain. The place began changing again, and the three men started disappearing from my view. Before they vanished completely, I heard a message in my heart that I still remember clearly. It was simple. Do not admire the lifestyle so much that you forget the human being underneath it. I looked back at the scenes one last time and saw how many people were still alive on Earth, chasing the same things. They were watching the same videos, repeating the same words, copying the same behavior, and believing they were becoming powerful. They did not see the loneliness behind the image. They did not see the addiction behind the party. They did not see the fear behind the aggression. I realized that the most dangerous part of a destructive lifestyle is how attractive it can look before the consequences arrive. Then I felt myself being pulled away. I woke up in a hospital room with my sister holding my hand and crying beside me. My chest was hurting, my throat was dry, and I could barely understand why I was still alive. The doctors told me they had managed to stabilize me, but I barely listened. My mind was still stuck in that strange place with those three artists. I kept thinking about how different the reality looked from everything I had seen on screens. I still listen to rap sometimes, but I do not look at fame the same way anymore. I do not assume that a person with money is happy or that someone with millions of followers has peace. I understand now that every public image hides a private story. Some people are fighting battles their audience will never know about. That experience made me more careful about what I celebrate and what I teach younger people to admire. I cannot tell you that what I experienced proves what happened to any of those three men after death. I cannot tell you where their souls are, and I will not pretend that I can make that judgment. What I can tell you is what the experience taught me about the lifestyle surrounding fame, violence, addiction, and endless approval. It taught me that the image people admire may hide a person who is struggling to survive behind it. It taught me that success without peace is not the victory it appears to be. It taught me that influence carries responsibility because people copy what they see. And it taught me that life can change in a single moment, long before we think we are ready. The three faces I saw were not the real lesson. The lesson was the world behind the image. If you are chasing a lifestyle that is destroying your peace, do not wait until you have everything to realize you have lost yourself. Some things look like freedom until you discover they were chains all along.